Alrighty, so today I'm going to do a video that somebody asked me to do showing my favorite art supplies that I have. And I do a lot of crafting. I do jewelry, I do a lot of clay, I knit, crochet, I've worked with glass, I do resin, I do all kinds of stuff. I do coloring, and I really like paper crafting. And I think I'm just focusing on the paper kind of crafting supplies today. I think that's kind of what they were, when you think of art supplies, that's what you were doing. The very first thing that I absolutely love is Premo Art Basic Heavy Gesso. I love this. This is my absolute favorite art supply that I have. I don't know why I love it so much, but it's just, I don't know, I just love it. So let me just show quickly kind of like one of the reasons why I love this. In gesso, like if you're going to do any kind of art stuff, you really need to have some sort of a gesso. So just to show you that this stuff is so thick and so creamy that I usually just don't even use a brush with this and just kind of put it on with like a palette knife, which is another thing that I love, is this palette knife. And I don't know if you can see, this just almost gives like a, it's so creamy and it's a great texture. Okay, so gesso. This is my favorite gesso. I do not use this on everything. I have the Liquitex Basic Gesso. I use this for, like a lot of other quick things. I have clear gesso, which I really do like because you can go over things that have color on them and gesso it to put more stuff on top to kind of protect or whatever, and it's clear, so it's not putting white on everything. I do like the clear gesso. I would recommend it. I have black. I've used it a couple times. I don't use it so much. I think there's a page in here where I kind of use the black. Trying it out, and I don't know, don't use the black. Like this is, I covered with black gesso. I use a lot of matte mediums. This is the one I generally use. I always buy this with a coupon. I actually got a bigger jar recently. I don't use this for everything. I know people who use their gel matte for like glue and every single thing, and I don't, because it is kind of expensive, and so I don't use it for everything, to glue everything down. I actually use glue. My favorite kind of glue that I use is this art glitter glue, and this is a really good glue. You have to buy this online. It's a good glue. It works really well. It dries clear. You can get the fine tip for it so that you just do a lot of little spaces, so it's great. I use this. It's my go-to glue. This is also a really good glue. It works really well, very strong adhesive. The only thing I have with this is that the top gets it kind of gets filled up, and I've tried to clean it a bunch of times, and it kind of gets too thick where I can't use it so much. So I'm not, it's a good glue, but maybe you have to take better care of it than I do. So the second thing that's really important, I think, is a craft mat. And this is a Ranger mat. I've had this for years. It's obviously pretty beat up. I'm thinking about replacing it because it is kind of so beat up. But it still does the job. And a lot of times if I don't use that, especially with clay, and I use wax paper. I use wax paper as a paint palette. I mean, I can use this as a paint palette. I also use wax paper a lot. I get this from the dollar store. It's just so easy to throw away. I do this especially when I'm doing clay a lot, and even when I'm just doing paint, just to throw down, like paint and stuff with craft paints and stuff. I'll throw a piece of wax paper down just so I can just mix the paints up and just toss it away. That's one of the things I like about that. Definitely use the spray bottle. And you can use any spray bottle. You don't need to have a Tim Holtz, $5 spray bottle. I use a coupon with everything I buy. So, I mean, this probably cost me $2.50. But I mean, any spray bottle would work. The other thing I like, I use, let's see, my Tim Holtz craft pick. This is great for when you're using die cuts to get like all the little pieces out of a die cut. Also, I use this for clay, and I use this for like if I'm doing a lot of paper with the double-sided tape to pull the backing off the tape. That's kind of what I use a lot for. And then I have my Tim Holtz craft knife. I have a couple other craft knives that are a little different than this. I use them all, but this is, I guess because it's red, I can find this in my box a lot. And like I said, my palette knife and my Tim Holtz scissors, because these are great. I don't know if these are Tim Holtz scissors. They're the Tectonic scissors. I'm pretty sure they're Tim Holtz. These work great, so I use these all the time. And even though I have a Misty, this is still a go-to block. This acrylic block I use not only for stamping. I use this for stamping. I use this for using it kind of as a palette. Like if I am doing like watercolors or watercolor markers or any kind of thing, I will put it on here. So this is something I constantly use. I know other people use like tiles. I don't have any spare tiles laying around my house, so that is what I use a lot. Stamp pads, and my favorite stamp pads are the Ranger Archival. The black is definitely the one that I go to all the time. My other one is my Versamark. Constantly use the Versamark. This I use for, you know, I use this with my pan pastels. I use this with embossing powders. I use this for chalking stuff, like anything that I want to do a reverse kind of resist on. I will show, I think, like, just for an example, like this folder that I made. This is all done with stamping like Versamark and then putting like pan pastels over the Versamark to get all these images. So, I mean, there's so many things that you can do with the Versamark. And then, of course, like I said, embossing. And moving on, embossing powder, white embossing powder. This is kind of like my favorite embossing powder. And I just think that, just for instance, okay, so this is stuff that I did like using the watercolors and the white embossing powder. This is mostly what I use it, that I use the white for. Let me say, like, same thing, like in here, I don't know if you can see it so much, but yeah. So I like doing, like with the watercolors, the white embossing powder. I think it looks really nice. So the other thing that I absolutely love is my Procision Fiskars trimmer. I love this trimmer. This trimmer is actually kind of expensive. I think it's like $120. It might even be $130. I got this with a 60% coupon, so I know I paid like $60 for it. And you can cut through the thickest cardboard chipboards. You can do many pages at once. Everything is so easy to line up on here. You don't have to replace the blade. It's a great trimmer, and I really enjoy it. Alright, so the next thing I was going to talk about is my favorite papers. One of my most favorite papers is rice paper. I have this on a roll, and I love rice paper. It's thin. I use it mostly for like jelly printing and stuff like that. It takes really well to like the pan pastels, work really good on that. And it kind of is like the tissue paper. I love the Tim Holtz tissue paper, and the rice paper kind of works in the same way as the Tim Holtz tissue paper. I use Bristol paper, and that I do somewhat like, mostly for Copics, just because as you can see, it doesn't really bleed through. It's very thick. It will suck in a lot of your markers, but it works well. I think this is all on Bristol paper. So I do that mostly because I got a really good deal on this. Really like having the 110-pound cardstock because I think it's great to have on hand. I get this from Joann's, pretty cheap. Usually when it's on sale, I never really pay more than $2 for this. Michaels, I think, sells the bigger packs, so it's like more sheets, like 100 sheets, but then I think it's like $12 or $13 or more. I think it's 13. So anyways, I buy this with a coupon. For watercolor paper, I generally use this just because, again, I get this pretty cheap on sales, like on 3-for-1 for it's only a couple bucks for a pad. I won't say it's my favorite watercolor paper, but I don't do too much watercoloring, and all these like little things that I've done on here were kind of like all done using this. Pretty much probably all this is done, and you can see it kind of warps up a little bit. It doesn't hold tons and tons of water, but I mean, for card making, it's fine. I think I like this one a little bit better, the Canson watercolor paper. I really like the Neenah Solar White cardstock, especially if I'm working with the Copics. I'll save that. I don't have a ream of this. I've bought this like sheets by the sheet at a scrapbooking store. Eventually, I think as I get more into the Copics and stuff, I will buy probably a whole ream of this to have on hand, but for now I don't. I'm more practicing, so I don't spend that much. But this is a really good paper to apply that I really like using, is my jelly plate. And I like making things with the jelly plate. I have tons of papers that I've made, and I use different paints and stuff on it. Although, for instance, like when I like making folders. I made this folder, and this is all like jelly plate kind of cutouts and stuff like that I've done in the jelly plate. And I got this at Jerry's Artorama. I we have the store in my state, so I went up there and I think it was like $15. So it was pretty cheap, so I thought I would try it out. But just a lot of the sheets that I do. And this is all done just like on copy paper, just playing around, just kind of get backgrounds. But yeah, these are all things that I've done on the jelly plate. And it's fun. I just keep them in here, and then when I need something like as a background, I'll cut it out or something. Okay, the heat tool I use is the Martha Stewart, and it's the only one I use, so I can't say if it's a good heat tool or a bad heat tool because it is the only one that I have ever used. I see a lot of people use the Ranger one. It's not too loud. I don't think this is too loud, and it works well. I think it's probably, you know, pretty on par with most of them. I have a lot of stencils, so I'm not going to go and show all my stamps. I will just show my favorite stamp. This is a script stamp. This is my absolute favorite stamp. It's by Stampabilities. I believe I bought this probably at Michael's, but I love this stamp. And then my favorite stencil is my script stencil. So let's go into paints. And this isn't all my paints, but kind of my go-to paint. I like the Dylusions paints because they are, you know, they're pretty creamy and they're vibrant. I really like the Tim Holtz paints, the Distress paints, just because I like the color of them. I'm not sure how much I like working with the daubers. I don't really like that, but I just like the colors that they come in. And then for the most part, I mean, I use a lot of just basic Craft Smart paint, cheap paints. I do have this iridescent medium so that if you put it on a paint, like a regular paint, it gives it kind of an iridescent shine, almost makes it like a metallic. So, I mean, you can buy metallics, but I mean, I like this that I can add this to any paint. And this is Artist Loft. It's only, you know, a few dollars. I use with a coupon. They go on sale all the time. I do like that. And, okay, let's see. So my favorite texture paste is this texture paste. It's the Ranger, and it is so creamy. It is like, you can kind of see, but it's almost like it's like cake frosting. I just love it. And this takes color great. You can spray it on. Maybe I'll actually do kind of like a little show how that works. Where's my book? Okay, so let's go back to the book. I'll just show really quick. I'll just use this stencil. So you just take a little bit out, and it's really super creamy, and I don't know, I just really like this texture paste. And this one's actually pretty old, so I think it's not as creamy as it was when I first got it because it is kind of old, but I can see like the top got a little harder, but the bottom still kind of is really creamy. So you just kind of put it on. Spread it out. And favorite sprays are the Dylusion sprays, just because they're so vibrant. I really like the Dylusions. I also have a lot of the Tattered Angels. They have a glimmer to them, and sometimes I just want a matte. I don't want a glimmer. I have Distress stains and sprays, and the Heidi Swap I find is pretty vibrant. I like more of the vibrant colors, and of course I have other ones in here, but I would have to say the Dylusions are my favorite. And kind of do the Misty. And as you can see, the texture paste really does take some great, I'm gonna kind of go over it. This texture paste really takes the color well. You can kind of like spritz it around and kind of blot it up, kind of make it go. But the texture paste is great. I don't know if you can see it so much on camera, but this is definitely my favorite. For my favorite markers, I use Copics. For the alcohol-based markers, I do use Copics. They're the only ones that I have. I had gotten, I think, the Spectrum Noir and tried those a while back, and then I wound up returning them. I didn't like the nubs. I like the Copics the best because I really do like the brush tips on them compared to like this Prismas and some of the other ones. They have like nubs, and I like this brush tip. So that is why I use Copic markers. And again, for the Copic markers, I use the Bristol paper, or I use the Neenah paper. Here's like, I think this is done. Just some stuff that I was playing around. I'm still learning how to use these. Definitely Still practicing. I don't practice as much as I need to, probably should. So these are kind of stamps that I had gotten, some new stamps I gotten, and I was trying out like how well these worked. As you can see, I really favor kind of like the blues and the flesh tones. And again, if you're using Copic, then this is kind of the stamps that you're going to use. What I use with my Copics is I have this transfer paper, and it's like graphite paper, and I buy this at AC Moore's on the Roll because it's the cheapest way to buy it. And basically, it's just, I'll just show you a piece. You put it face down on where you want it to go, and say you want to have an image, and here's your image, and you just want to copy it over onto like cardstock because you can't get through that. You know, the cardstock's too thick, or the Bristol paper is too heavy to go through your printer. That's what I have a problem with, is I can't get it to go through my printer. So I just want to kind of transfer some images that I want to use for my Copics if I wanted to on the card or whatever, and then you just kind of trace over it, and then when you pick it up, you're going to have that image is there. So I have a lot of distress markers. These are okay. So the most thing I use these kind of markers is I use these kind of like for watercoloring. So I'll put them on the block. I'll color it, and then I will get a water brush, squeeze some water, and then I will use them to kind of paint with. So I would say that's the most what I use the distress markers. I don't use them to necessarily just color straight in, color things all the time. I mostly use them like on a block as watercolors. As far as jelly pens, I prefer the Sakura jelly pens, and this is the Stardust pen, and this is my absolute favorite pen. And the reason why is because I can go over and just put like a glitter, kind of like the Wink of Stella pens. I have some Wink of Stellas. I don't have just the clear glitter one, and I don't know if this comes up on camera, her tail, but you can just add shimmer to everything, and I really like it. So this is my most favorite, I guess, marker pen that I have. The thing that I really like to use are my pan pastels. These are definitely my favorite pastels. They are a bit, let's see if I can kind of zoom out, they're a little expensive. I mean, a 20 pack will cost you at least $65 probably to $75 for a 20 pack of pan pastels. These are amazing. What I do a lot is I color my chalks with them, and I mean, this is just a tissue paper that I colored with them, just rubbing them over, and the colors are just so pretty. They're vibrant. I just love these pan pastels. And again, I use them more for coloring. I love use them for like coloring my rice paper, for coloring my tissue paper. I believe this is like some fabric paper I made and then ripped apart, but this is all pan pastels, the colors and stuff that I use on these, and it works really good with the Versamark like resist stamping, and I think I have a video on how I use those. The page was all done with using pan pastels and just the brown colors and stuff, but as you can see, they're really smooth. They go on so smooth, and they're just really pretty. So my favorite pencils are definitely my favorite pastels, Polychromos. I love these pencils. They are pricey, so I think I paid $165 at Jerry's Artorama for this set. This is a 120 set. I just love these. I have the 48 set of Prismas. I prefer these over the Prismas just because I feel like the Prismas, you're constantly sharpening them, and I think these are blend better. I think these are oil-based versus those might be water-based. So I'm not an expert on pencils, but I just love my Polychromos. And what I use for my Polychromos is to blend them. I use the Odorless Mineral Spirits. This is what I use to blend. I pour these, I just pour some on a sponge so that it keeps, just use a blending stuff. And this is definitely something that I constantly use. I just, I have a couple, but I just, you know, I sharpen them with a craft knife to kind of clean them off. And this is my staples for my color. My favorite art journals, I wouldn't say this is my favorite. This is the one that I use. I've been kind of showing it throughout the video. The paper is okay in this. Here's what we did before. As you can see, it buckles. It's not the best quality paper. This is the Canson. It's only 98 pounds. I got this because, you know, this is kind of like my test art journal that I kind of try out new stuff on. It's not like my best projects. It's more like kind of just to test, see how things are working. I think I use like Magicals on this page. Then I have a Dylusions one, and I will say this is definitely better quality. I've only done like one thing in this one. I've done this page right here, and this was done with like sprays, and this was done with a lot of water. I mean, I sprayed, and then I was using stencils and spraying some more and blotting and spraying to try to get all these lines in. And as you can see, it doesn't come through. It's a really good quality. I would say this is my favorite journal, and I think I have the little one too. And I also have the Strathmore one, but I've never used it, so I can't comment on that. And then again, lastly, like, again, I love Prima. So my favorite, I love Prima stamps. I just like, these are my background stamps. I love these. I love Prima paper. This is Nature Garden. I have like 2 of these pads. I love vintagey paper. This one has a lot of little fairies in here, if you can see. I love Prima. Here's some more of their pads. I think as Prima does a lot of like kind of vintage stuff, and I just really love their brand. And pretty much anything that's kind of vintagey. I like the floral stuff, the Gansai Tambi set. I like this set. I don't have other sets. I know some people have like tons of watercolor sets. This is all I use. I'm not that great of a watercolorist, so the stuff I do is mostly for card making. Alright, so these are just some of my go-to favorite things that I use in all my paper art stuff. And thanks for watching, and hope you have a great day.